everyone. Welcome back to 33 Founders. Chase and I are delighted to be joined by Kevin Petrovic, one of the co-founders of FlightCar this afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us, Kevin.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Since we spoke last summer, FlightCar has expanded to Los Angeles, you're moving to Seattle, and you've served over 15,000 members. How does that feel after the first year?
So, we're really excited about how it's been going so far, and it's really been beyond our wildest expectations. So we're really happy about the progress we've made. I think we made some mistakes along the way, but I think that sort of comes with the territory. And we're always making improvements, always making changes, to help the company grow, and to have even more happy customers. So we're really thrilled with how it's going so far.
Awesome. And now there are a few little bumps in the road, though, specifically all these legal issues that it's just going crazy with you guys. But it reminds me of the early days of Napster, where you have the RIAA suing everyone and kind of the publishing industry. So you have these big industries who just are failing to innovate, and so as a result, they're suing everyone. But it's kind of a sign to me that you guys are doing something really, really special. And so, do you think that you're kind of responsible for reshaping the travel industry?
So I think we haven't gotten there yet. I think that might be something that we might reach for in the future. But I think that, when large established companies, organizations, airports in our case, sort of start to feel threatened, litigation is one sort of avenue that they resort to. So, on the one end, it's very annoying to have to deal with all of these sort of thorny issues and keep having to fight back and spending a whole lot of money battling against them. But on the other hand, it's really nice because I guess it's sort of like validation that what you're doing is really interesting to people, and people are sort of aware of what's going on. But in the space, with a lot of these kind of transportation and travel related startups that are doing sharing economy and stuff like that, a lot of them are involved in all sorts of legal issues, so I don't think we're unique at all in that respect.
So even though, Kevin, no one wants to deal with legal issues, of course, it's also bringing a lot of awareness to your brand. Do you think that the media coverage can duly serve to highlight everything that you're doing and to get customers more excited? Yeah,
it's a great point. We've thought about that quite a while. I think it's sort of a double-sided sword, but we definitely love the media coverage that comes along because of the lawsuits. I think it definitely helps bring a lot of awareness. I think some people might be scared of it because of the the lawsuit related factor, but I think the more mind share we can get, the better.
And in light of brand awareness, back in March, you guys brought on a new VP of marketing. And since then, you've created new initiatives like Share, where people can use celebrities' cars. So people seem to be really excited about that. And Give 20, Get 20. What techniques for marketing specifically have you noticed seem to be specifically beneficial for the sharing economy?
So I think that's really interesting because I think the techniques that work on either end of the spectrum are pretty different. So for people who are renting, we do a lot of search advertising, on Google and stuff like that for people who are searching for cheap car rentals. I think it works pretty well. We're able to use paid acquisition tactics in a lot of ways that make sense, that have a good CPA, cost per acquisition and conversion, and sort of those tactics make sense there. And so that's sort of where we're working and refining our strategies. In terms of the people who are parking their cars, we've found that doesn't work so well. So you have to use a lot of more sort of creative marketing ideas. So what you mentioned with the referral program, the Give 20, Get 20 thing, we found that works pretty well for people who are parking their cars because it encourages people to share the concept and tell their friends about it, and we found that that's pretty effective. We've also been toying with stuff like billboards and stuff like that, which seems to work pretty well. So it's just a whole different set of tactics that you need to use in order to hit each side of the spectrum.
Interesting. And so, Kevin, as I'm sure you know, one of the keys to a successful business is delivering a consistent product or service. And it's so obvious you guys are striving for that, but there's always these growing pains. But to me, it seems all of them stem from these external forces. You have Milbray and just crazy things that I'm reading on Yelp, So, as a founder, how do you strive to control these? Because in a vacuum, it would work every time. But I mean, what's your process for dealing with this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, believe me, I wish it was perfect every time. And with Yelp, I mean, there's often two sides to the story. So in a lot
Pretty
of
brutal stuff on there too.
right, I agree, but on the same angle, some people are a little bit dramatic about the way they write. So yeah, there's a lot of external forces and just a lot of moving parts with the way the service works, and there's just so many different things that can go wrong. Like for instance. One airline might change the terminal they're operating at from the airport, and then that information doesn't propagate fast enough to all of our systems and our employees, and then this person comes in on this airline, and then the driver's waiting at the wrong terminal, and that's just like one small example of the million things that can go wrong. So it's really frustrating for me to see all of these sort of small issues. It's very hard to categorically go and fix them, because a lot of the time it's just sort of this one small issue that it works well for almost everybody, and then it just comes up as an issue for this one person. So it's hard to really effectively fix overarching problems, because there aren't that many, and the ones that there are we fixed so far. So it's really just about attention to detail. And really just sort of really being focused on looking at every sort of step of the process. So that's actually one thing we're going to be hiring somebody new soon. That's going to they're going to be sort of full time focused on really looking at the process and the entire customer experience from start to finish, and figuring out how we can make it even more consistent and even better.
And what is that person called? A chaos theory expert or what?
Yeah, well, we're not really sure about the title, to be honest, but something regarding customer experience and product.
Another note on the customer experience that you guys do really, really exceptionally well is, so for example, on Yelp, if there is ever a negative response, we've noticed that you guys always immediately respond personally and are incredibly attentive to whatever has gone on with the consumer. How do you feel that attentiveness has distinguished FlightCar and continues to bring people back?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's always two sides to a story, right? And for people who actually go and write, that kind of, like a super negative review on Yelp, I think it's very hard to bring them back, because at that point, I think we've done what we can to solve the situation. Mm-hmm. But I think it definitely does help for people who are, new potential customers who are checking out the Yelp to try to find out, what's going on. I think offering that alternate perspective in most cases really sort of balances out, the two sides, and so people are able to see that there's more to its particular situation than not. Because again, I mean, there really is more to almost every situation than you can see from just one side.
I think, as we've mentioned today, any time that you have a new product, especially with the sharing economy, so FlightCar is something that you guys brought FlightCar and nobody knew what this was or had ever experienced something like this. So that's a problem that people are going to experience multiple times, not knowing exactly what to expect. When you're telling someone your idea and you're explaining FlightCar, how do you do it in the simplest terms so they understand it and they're excited about it, versus going back to that old mentality of, oh, should we do something new?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of all about explaining the value and the key points, sort of really quickly, and just sort of hitting on those key value points. So if I'm talking to somebody who might be interested in parking their car, obviously getting free parking is super important. Making money on the cars is super cool. Obviously insurance is a huge factor, so people will want to hear about that. The limo ride to the airport, people like that, and then the washing and cleaning of the car. So those are sort of like the 5 biggest sort of key factors that I think people are responsive to. So just being able to hit on all of those, and showing how the service sort of provides all of them and makes sense in that regard, I think is pretty important. Because if you get sort of too complicated in terms of like the mechanics of how it works, I think it gets lost on some people. But just going over the key the key points of like what the product can do for the customer is really the way to do it.
So like, what's your one-line pitch?
So FlightCar allows people who are traveling from the airport to get free parking, and they can get free parking by renting out their car to other travelers, fully insured. Plus, you get a free car wash and can also make money depending on how long the car is rented for.
It's so much more. You guys do so many cool things. I thought it would be impossible. I mean, you're the Airbnb of car sharing, but it's so much more. But on that,
I think you have to provide those like small differentiating factors for people to, because people like that. So I think it's important.
And it's interesting. Last time, we know that you kind of got your idea from Airbnb, but now Brian Chesky, he's an investor, so that's something new that I've learned about you guys. That must be pretty cool. But I'm also curious too, though. He's going through a lot of the same issues, that the crackhead incident and some other strange things going on there. But so with all the similar external forces and everything, what is like the best piece of wisdom that Brian has imparted to you guys?
I mean, we talk to him pretty often because it's interesting to be able to share some of the stuff that we're going through and see how he's either dealt with it or dealing with it or something else. So I think one of the most important things that we've sort of taken away is the customer service aspect, because I think one of his main philosophies is that you really have to deliver a great experience to the customer every time in order for them to be happy and use the service again and then promote it to their friends. And that's really the way I think Airbnb has grown, and that's the way I think we've grown and will continue to grow. So doing everything we can to achieve that consistency, I think is really important, for both Airbnb and for us, for FlightCar.
Awesome. And I just have to quickly say, Kevin, that one-line pitch was very impressive. And I'm now going to challenge Chase to create a one-line pitch for 33 voices. So that's what we're going to do for the rest of the day. So you inspired us.
And then
I think it's pretty important to be able to, say it like pretty concisely.
Yeah, and we had a problem with you guys last time in our interview, and unfortunately we still have the same problem. So I want to bring up this one big issue. When the heck are you coming to San Diego?
Well, I promise it is in our plans. In fact, I have been working on some stuff relating to expansion now. Obviously, it's a little bit smaller market than some of the other ones we've targeted, but for sure it is coming. It is in the plans and it's coming soon. We've for sure looked at it, and so we are aware, and we look at a lot of different factors when we think about what kind of market to go to. Everything from people's past willingness to use the sharing economy with companies like Airbnb and maybe Lyft and Relay Rides and stuff like that, to the market size, to how many people travel through the airport, to the availability of public transit. There's a lot of factors. There's like 40 or 50 different factors that we look at. So it's really complicated. I don't know if we always make the best choice, but I hope we'll continue to get good markets, and hopefully we'll be in San Diego pretty soon.
So far, you guys are doing pretty well. And for our viewers who are watching from Seattle, when can they expect FlightCar?
So we're targeting right at the beginning of July. So in about a month, really.
So you got a busy June waiting for you.
Lucky dogs.
Yes, and hopefully we'll be opening a lot more markets soon after that. We're actually fundraising right now to get some additional investment, and after that, we'll hopefully be able to open a lot more markets more quickly.
All right,
Very
Kevin
cool.
Petrovic, thank you. And one last thing, where can our audience find you on the interwebs?
So it's just FlightCar.com, really simple, and you can find out everything about service and rent a car if you're going to one of our cities, or park your car as well if you're traveling out of one of our locations.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks.